It's the make or break fight of the lifetime for the Peanut Butter Cup King, the Zohan, Randy Costa, and he's going to be taking on our town MMA's own, Argentina's favorite son. He's almost 43 years old. It's Guido Cannetti, and we're going to take you on a trip down memory lane for Guido Cannetti because you all laughed at me. You out there, 81% of you on Topology, and boy, were there a lot of votes, Matt. They all had Chris Mutino to beat Guido.
No one loves patting themselves on the back more
I
than
said
you.
Guido's going to go out there and get that win. You didn't think it was going to happen, but for Guido, he finally does get the win. And this guy has had the weirdest run in the UFC. That's got to be said. This guy was fucking 35 on The Ultimate Fighter, and they went, hey, let's just keep him around. He went 0-2 on the show, but should he fight Henry Briones? Yeah, let's do it. And for Guido, in the UFC, 3-5 since the Ultimate Fighter Latin America Season 1. He was 0-2 on that season. He very much was the Austin Lane before Austin Lane from Dana White's Contender Series. Because you got to remember, Austin just won. He's 34, turning 35 next month. Guido was 35 getting into the UFC. Maybe Austin can kick around for that long.
Joel Romero made his debut at 36.
Well, for Guido, I mean, I go through all of his fights. I mean, he did look really good against Chris Mutino. He was throwing the crisp leg kick, the crisp body kick. You know and love Guido for that thunderous leg kick and body kick early in his fights. But he doesn't normally last as fights go on. And that's Guido's biggest hole. And in the fight against Chris Mutino, he was really lunging for a lot of his hooks. He was landing. Mutino's knocked out on his feet. The commentary, they weren't too hip to the finish as it happened. But then Mutino was definitely out in the last, in the 10 seconds preceding the finish. So you look at it for Guido, the 3-fight losing streak that he had kind of going into that fight. Lost a year ago to Mana Martinez. Looked great in the first round. Looked good in the third round. Didn't look good in the second round. Mana had the kind of extenuating circumstances around the fact that his coach had just passed away before that fight. For Guido, before that, lost to Chito Vera and lost to Dana Bakari. But for Guido, it very much is, I gotta get it done in the first round, or that's about all she wrote.
Guido Cannetti's the perfect do you still belong in the UFC or not fighter. Because if you beat him, then hey, you belong. If you lose to him, there's a reason we don't often talk about 43-year-olds in the bantamweight division. Fighters at this weight division tend to age a lot faster than they do in heavyweight. And why is that? Well, power tends to be the last thing that goes when you're an athlete. So, in the heavyweight division, where power it kind of reigns king, you can last very long in that weight division. Whereas in bantamweight, when you need things like cardio and speed, two things you don't often have in your early 40s as a professional athlete, it does become a little bit concerning, but Guido Cannetti did look really good his last time out against Mutino. I know I had picked Chris going into that matchup, and the fact that Cannetti was able to land such powerful shots so early on in that fight was a really promising thing to see, because, okay, at least Guido still has his X factor. That hasn't left him just yet. That's a really important thing for any fighter. I just don't know if he's going to be able to go in there and get such a quick finish, a guy like Randy Costa, who, it is interesting, both these guys do suffer from the same weaknesses. Randy is a guy who, if you get really close to him, you can outbox him. He doesn't really have the greatest answer for some of the close range strikes of his opponents, but he's really good at that kickboxing range. He's great at going to the legs, great at going to the bodies. Really is a 3-level striker when it does come to his own kicks. But the thing about Costa is, when you throw kicks, they take a lot more of your energy than punches do. There's a reason a lot of people jab. It does take a lot of energy to jab, and it's still a strike. Whereas with Costa, it's a lot of big actions. And if he's not able to land those really big actions, he does tend to tire very fast as these fights go on. And everybody's going to remember that Adrian Yanez fight, because that was a fight that was, hey, these two uber prospects, like if they ever fight again, it'll be at the top of the rankings. Maybe Adrian has separated himself a little bit from Randy, but just think about the first round in that fight. Randy was able to damage Adrian Yanez pretty badly, for being honest. He had his nose bloody, he was kicking his legs apart. He was looking really good, but again, the issue is, when guys are able to solve his range and get on the inside of it, that's when Costa does struggle with what that plan B or plan C is going to be. And against Guido, it's really just going to come down to, can Guido get on the inside of that range before that second round comes around? Because, and it's wild to say this based on his last two fights, but I think I do ever so slightly favor the gas tank of Randy Costa. I think a little bit does come down to a pacing issue more than just a naturally having poor cardio. I think if he does just slow down a little bit in that first round, have smarter shot selections, then he won't fall off a cliff like we have seen as of late. But this is a very important fight for Randy Costa. And I know it's weird because the loser might not be in the UFC, but it still feels more important for Randy Randy Costa than it does for Guido Cannetti. Cannetti's been around. He's done that. He is on the end of his UFC career. Nobody expected Randy Costa to go on a 3-fight losing streak and be wondering if he would still be in the organization.
This is the craziest thing about Randy Costa. Coming into the UFC, it was a level of competition. It was really bad, and I can give you the numbers if you want, but this is the third rebuild of Randy Costa. And you might say, well, geez, I mean, Craig, like his record's not that bad, but okay, so he loses to Brandon Davis. It is what it is. He beats Journey Newsom. That was a really good win. He gets the win over Boston Solomon where he drops him twice. In the fight against Boston Solomon, I heard Daniel Cormier say something that had never occurred to me before in any of these videos and watching Randy Costa. He throws the same thing all the time and goes back to the well in every single fight. And he will, because if you watch Randy Costa fight, his footwork's a lot different than Guido Cannetti's. Guido Cannetti's very much, I'm going to try and cut you off, or I get backed up. But I stay kind of to that left side. I stay in my southpaw stance. He's very rigid. He throws a lot of power. He plants on a lot of his shots. Randy Costa doesn't plant on a lot of his shot. Randy Costa is very much like, ooh, I'm happy feet, I'm baby deer legs, I'm all over the place. I land one good one. Well, geez, I better go back to that well. If I land a right cross, well, then I'm going to throw another right cross. And in that fight against Solomon, he just kept doing it, and he landed 2 knockdowns, right crosses there every single time. Journey Newsom, quick finish. Good mixing it up against Adrian Yanez until everything started to fade in the second round. Against Tony Kelly, he loses the first round, and then in the second round, he gets backed up. He loses his range. Kelly gets it down to the mat, elbows to the head and everything else, and he gets the finish. What I have in this one, the good for Costa, well, he's 3 inches taller, and he's got 5 inches of reach. The bad out of all of it, sometimes he can get cornered, and his takedown defense isn't all that good when he gets backed up, nor is his striking defense. The good, all of his fights are by finish, which is good, because he's got more wins than losses. But the bad, the opponent's record combined in all of his wins, even with the UFC wins. Boston Solomon had a positive record, so did Journey Newsom. 20-18. And
thing is, though, even if he beats Guido Cannetti, you can still say that after the fact.
And it is true. So it really is a chintzy call when you get down to it. The last time he fought a southpaw, that was Boston Solomon, who had good boxing, and he was able to figure out that riddle there. So Costa does have success against somewhat similar fighters, but for Canetti, he's less of a boxer, more of a kickboxer, and he loves to throw leg kicks with his back leg, and he will throw it to the body a lot too.
But that's the problem. I think if Canetti was more of a boxer, it would actually help him out in this because he would be trying to get it into a range that Costa naturally struggles with. I think the fact that these guys are going to be happy kickboxing for a lot of this fight is going to favor Randy Costa being the bigger guy. I just think he's going to be able to land a lot more of his damaging shots. He's going to be able to find his sweet spot a lot faster in this matchup. If Guido can get past that early storm and show us a second or third gear to his game that we rarely do see, then maybe he is able to really wear on Randy Costa with some of his clinch and really work at the gas tank of him. But I think if you have two fighters who struggle with a lot of the same things and one happens to be, 14 years younger, it's hard for me to not go with a much younger fighter.
The thing that I don't necessarily love about Costa, and I open it up talking about him saying this is a rebuild 3.0. He started off in the UFC with Lausanne's mixed martial arts. Then he went to Sanford MMA. Now he's in American Combat Gym, and there's been kind of issues along the way. So it looks like from his Instagram, he's training a lot with his boxing and a lot of his Muay Thai. He's wearing the gloves and the Muay Thai trunks. We look at the odds for this matchup. Costa open to minus 260, minus 306. Canetti open plus 220, plus 240. We have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprised us there to you. Over under 82.5% Costa.
I think it'll be under, but he should be favored.
That's over 745 total votes, 89% Costa, 14% by decision, 80% by knockout. For the 11% that have Canetti, 58% by knockout. Is the Canetti fade on, or still on for you?
It's just, neither one of these guys is going to become a champ. That's not a hot take, I hope. I just slightly favor Randy Costa, and even beating Guido Cannetti is not really going to prove that much to us. Like you said, the winner of this really does just cement their place in the UFC, and it doesn't really help them move up all that much. It just means you belong. So I think Randy Costa, even though he does have some gas tank issues, so does Guido Cannetti, so I don't expect either guy to really be able to pull apart from their opponent as this fight progresses, and I do ever so slightly favor the outside striking of Randy Costa. Again, I don't think this fight is then going to get him a rematch with Yanez and then a fight against Marab or anything like that, but I think it'll be good enough to beat a guy in Guido Cannetti.
I like the straight shots out of Randy Costa more than I like the looping shots out of Guido Cannetti. And Randy Costa has been caught by those type of shots in the past. Randy can get his legs compromised by kicks, which Guido throws out there, but I like that front kick up the middle. I like the head kicks from either side from Costa. I don't love the fact that, again, he's baby deer legs and never really plants on his shots, but his straight shots, I favor them to the big looping power shots out of Canetti, and I think that Costa's overall skill set's a little bit more conducive to winning this matchup. So I have Randy Costa ever so slightly, but at minus 306, it feels a little bit silly considering what Canetti was able to do his last time out. And if you like the fighter out of Argentina, you let us know down below in the comment section. If you like Costa like we do, also let us know down below in the comment section. We have some big time fights coming up on this card, including Mike Davis versus Slava Borshchev. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.